let's jump straight in and create a Chao character. And this tutorial is going to go through the modeling process, the unwrapping and the texturing to get this sort of GameCube level result. You can add extra topology or levels of turbo smooth to get a more rounded result. But without going any deeper, let's just jump straight in. So we're going to drag out a box initially, and we're going to start with the torso here. Okay. And what I'm going to do with this box is, let's get our scale. Let's start with 30 centimeters, 30 centimeters, and 30 centimeters. He's quite small, this character is. And we're going to add a turbo smooth to this, and we're going to add a spherify modifier to this. Okay. And we're going to increase the level of turbo smooth on that. And I think that will, once that's zeroed in, be a good start. I'm going to grab a material and put that on there. And now we can just get an FFD 3x3. I'm going to press 1 on my keyboard. You can do that by clicking control points as well. I'm going to grab some of these control points and I'm just going to squish in this sphere, and then I'm going to select all the ones at the bottom and I'm going to scale them up, get this sort of egg shape, and then I'm going to take the top ones and I'm going to push them down a little bit. I'm going to get the outer bits, I'm just going to bring them up a little bit, and the middle ones down a little bit, and that's just going to flatten off the top. And I think that's a good start there. Okay, so FFD with a free grid multiplier. If you've never seen FFD, it's a good way for freeform deformation is what it stands for, and it's a good way for deforming 3D shapes. So for the limb, we're actually just going to hold down Shift and drag one of these out, and I'm just going to delete this FFD modifier, and I'm going to put it back on. Okay, and we should be able to, let's start with control points and let's scale it. I've selected all of them and I'm just going to scale it in to make it a little bit more like shape. I'm going to position that in, and then I'm going to take the bottom bit and I'm going to move it up. And I'm going to rotate the bottom and I'm going to scale them up. Now again, this is not the type of tutorial in which I can give you exact values. You've just got to do this now with a little bit more intuition. But I'm taking the top part here, rotating that, and I'm going to scale these down. Okay, so then we've got that sort of shape there. And we're going to just sort of move these in place here. And what I would like is this bit of topology to just be in line with here. You can see the limbs are separate meshes and floating, and quite a lot of the Sonic characters do this. And now we can start to take these middle ones and we can rotate them and move them around until you get the pose in which you think looks pretty good for your eye. Okay, I'm going to just fatten up the hands a little bit more and just move them out. Then I'm going to take the middle control points again and just move them out, and I think that is okay. We might just want to take, I'm going to press Alt-X to go into X-ray mode so I can see what I'm grabbing. I'm going to grab these and just move them a little bit further in. And you can see my control points are getting quite messy right now, but that doesn't matter because our topology is going to be fine because of that turbo smooth on the box modifier. Okay, so I'm going to press Alt-X and I'm okay with this. What I'm going to do is just press another edit poly on top, and I'm going to just take this one this one there. I'm just going to move a couple of these down just so it's a little less angular for this part. And I think something like that will be absolutely fine. Once we look at it with F4, we can kind of see we've got that similar silhouette. Okay, when we increase the level of turbo smooth on this as well, we can see it gets really, really round. Okay, same on this one when we add a turbo smooth again on it. And this is how you can do a higher detailed level or a more increased polygon count to the GameCube level. Okay. To get the arm on the other side, I'm going to delete that turbo smooth for now. I'm going to add on a symmetry modifier. Okay. And the symmetry has appeared here. Okay. Now, where we want the symmetry to be is at 0 in the world. I'm going to 0 that down, or I didn't have the mirror selected, so it's moved the whole object. So I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to press 1 on my keyboard, or you can expand symmetry and go to mirror. And now we can move the mirror itself without moving the object. Okay, and it doesn't matter about the Z height because we're not doing that. All we need to do is change this to the Y axis, and we can turn off the X axis because we don't want it symmetry in that way. And now that should be perfectly in position. It does look like it may not be. That's because this isn't perfectly in position. There we go. So making sure that our shapes are zeroed out will help us positioning all of this. So I'm happy with that, other than I want to just move this now slightly this way. I'm going to move my symmetry over to here. Okay. All right. So now we're going to, again, we're happy with the arms. And if we press F4, we can see the topology. And if we hold down Shift now on the body to make the feet, I'm going to hold down Shift. And I'm going to delete that turbo smooth. I'm going to delete that FFD. And I'm going to put on a new FFD. And I'm going to, again, press 1 on the keyboard or expand this, select control points, and scale it down this way now. And the feet are a lot simpler than the arms. Let's go put this actually a bit further down. So my gizmo is not in position with this. So actually what I'm going to do is go to the hierarchy tab, effect pivot point, and I'm going to move this up to around about the bottom. It doesn't need to be exactly at the bottom, but we can sort that out later. So that's fine. Once you come out of that, effect pivot point should turn off. And I'm just going to zero this out. And now this is going to help show us how high the actual body is. So we can grab these and we can move these about in position as well. All right. And I can actually see my arms are a little bit too low. And now I can start to, once you start getting this scale in, and this is why having reference is really, really useful. Rather than having something that looks kind of like something, we can make it look exactly like something. And I'm actually going to rotate that a little bit as well. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay. And we can now go back to modeling the feet. I'm also going to turn on X-ray mode onto these so we can see the feet a little bit easier. Going into my FFD, I want the back of the foot to be flattened out a little bit. So I'm going to bring those in like that, and then I'm going to bring both of these back a little bit. I want the bottom of my foot flattened out a little bit, so I'm going to bring that up, and then I'm going to bring all of these down. Okay. I'm going to bring the bottom of my foot forward. Well, sorry, the tip of my foot forward. And let's see what we can do with this as well. what I'm actually going to do is take this. I'm going to try and bring it down a little bit. And I'm going to take these. I'm going to bring them up a little bit. And I'm going to also increase the scale width-wise. And I'm starting to feel like that's about the shape that the feet are. And they may even be just a little bit too long, so I'm just going to take these and move them back a little bit as well. Look at this in place with my reference, and I think they're about the right size. So now we can add on a symmetry modifier. We can turn off X, enable Y. We go to the mirror and we zero that out, and now we have another foot in position. And I'm going to take these two now and just bring that down, just clipping with the feet just a little bit. There we go. And I can disable X-ray mode. Now we need the head. Now, rather than taking another one of these, I can see my topology goes up into this point. And this is actually a really good use case for a cylinder. I mean, a sphere even. So I can take this and start to put this into position. And we can zero that out. Now, I think I'm going to start with 16. And that's going to give me a good amount of topology that is in line with the rest of this this object. And what I'm going to be doing as well is take this. No, that's far too big. Let's try 18. Right, 16. Let's try 15. There we go. Yeah, 15 seems about right on the scale. Again, we're going to add on an FFD in a moment, and that will sort it out. So I'm going to turn on FFD. We're going to flatten out the bottom of this. We're going to take the top and bring up that. We're going to bring in the middle. And we're going to take these control points and bring those out and bring them up. And actually, yeah, I think it's going to require some different modeling techniques to get this full shape. So what I'm actually going to do is bring these down a little bit. In fact, I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to try a different method. So let's go into edit poly mode, and what we're going to do instead now is we're going to go into isolate selection, so we can only see the head. That's all I care about right now. I'm going to put on a material onto this just so it's a bit easier to see, and I'm going to use soft selection, which is another way to deform objects. I'm going to enable soft selection, and I'm going to select the top of the head. And this bubble, this profile here, is how when I move a vert, how it's going to move. So it's kind of got that conical shape there. What I want is this sort of pinch drop shape. So if I change the fall off and have it affecting just the top of the head, now I can move around the pinch and the bubble. And I've got now that type of shape. So I'm looking at that sort of point and then going off into round, and I'm going to bring that up. That looks a lot better. And then with these ones, I'm going to change the fall off again, and I'm going to change the pinch so that the bubble is more flat like that, and I should be able to bring them up like that. And in fact, I think I need to go even further like this. And I'm going to actually also just scale them down a little bit. Still not mad about that. So let's now just do some different kind of modeling. So let's go to just do some vertex modeling. So I've turned off soft selection now, and I'm just going to position some of these into how I think they should go. And let's scale that up. Let's that up. And I think what it is that these need to be wider as well. So let's actually enable soft selection again. And I think this is how I can do it. If I do that, there we go. We've got that sort of drop shape now. And I can start to go into maybe edge mode. And we should be able to double click these. I'm going to turn off soft selection again. And again, just moving things into until they sort of the shape that you're expecting them to be. And now I actually think I'm being limited by the amount of topology that I have. I've got my initial silhouette, but I think there's a bit of curvature in here. So I'm going to go onto here. I'm going to add a turbo smooth, and I'm going to add an edit poly on top of this. And I think this is, yeah, I think a lot closer to what I should have. So I'm going to take a couple of these. I'm going to click this. I'm going to go into my ribbon at the top here. If you don't have that expanded, click this so it is expanded, and use so I want you to double click this row up here, go into the loop section and click set flow, and we're going to do this a couple times on a few of these. Let's hold down control and click a few, not that one, and we'll do set flow on them. There we go. And it's just going to average out the spacing for a couple of these. And now I should be able to grab this. In fact, I want to move these up. So I'm going to move them up. It's going to ruin my scale a little bit. And I'm just going to move these up and scale them down. And then move these up. And there we go. All right. So now I should be able to grab this one. Use soft selection. Get my point back in place on my profile. And I'm just gonna try and rotate this a little bit. In fact, yeah, it can go forward like that. And you can see now it's sort of done a nice curvature going around like that. And I can even sort of move it forward. And I think that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to end the isolate now. And we can move this down. And that's looking pretty okay. Some things might need now just changing in scale. So again, this is an exercise in observation. I think the arms are just a little bit too big. And I think the head is a little bit too small. I think actually the body's fine. There we go. Something like that. And I think some of the curvature around here, it's a bit, I've got the curvature a bit different. So I could come in here, maybe with my soft selection. Let's drop that a little bit. Let's change the pinch. Crease for bubble. And let's try something. Let's grab these. That up. Go from here, in fact. Maybe even from in here. So what I'm doing is I'm double clicking the ring with soft selection, if you can't see that. And, oops, I've deselected it. And I'm moving this up. Also going to select the bottom bit there. That's not really getting me the result that I want. So I'm going to go into vertice mode instead. And I'm going to drag a box over that and move that up. Don't like that. Let's try scaling it down. There we go. That's the result that I want. That sort of flatter curve going into there. And I think this is now looking a lot more what we can see there. I do think there is a bit of, if I go into an FFD now, some opportunity to get the shape looking. So again, just using those control points to get silhouette looking how you think it should do. And I think he's a bit flatter on his face, which is why I've done that. And so now we should be able to think about how to put on the eyeballs, and they are actually modeled on here. So what we're going to do is add on an edit poly, and we are going to use our cut tool. So we're in vertice mode, and we can scroll down until we find the cut tool, and we want to think about where about the eyes are. They're quite low down on his head, so I'm going to try about here. And then I'm also going to go through there. And then now I have these, I'm going to scale up, but I'm going to turn on edge mode, okay? And if I scale these up, it's going to not ruin the silhouette at all, okay? And what we can do now is, no, I haven't ruined the topology here through cutting like that. If it's a triangle and a triangle, triangle and a triangle, I'm actually going to keep that topology in just to keep those squares, the shape being that way. But I'm actually just going to pull these out just a little bit by turning off edge constraints just a tiny bit as well. Now we're going to go into face mode, and we are going to extrude by, say, I'm going to do a very small amount, and then I'm going to do another amount. And the reason is because we're going to add another turbo smooth on after this, and that's going to be our supporting edge loop. And I'm also going to inset, okay, by a small amount. And now if I add on a turbo smooth on top of this, it should look quite nice. I think potentially I should have modelled in VI before I added on that extra turbo smooth, probably. But let's just have a look at what's going on here, because there's some pinching that I'm not crazy about. When you look at it from a distance, it does look fine. I think potentially just the edge that I've done on that first supporting edge, this could come in a little bit, something like that. And I'm also going to add on edge constraints before I do that. So I've undone that movement that I just did. I'm going to do this, and what that's going to do, you can see how it doesn't change the shape. I'm going to add on to my turbo smooth, and I can move this forward and backwards, and actually, yeah. So rather than over here, I actually want it closer to here, so we get a nice sharp line where the eye starts. So if I turn off turbo smooth, you can see it's much closer to this side now, okay? So I think that looks pretty good. And now, can we be cheeky and not model in the extra one? Let's try on a symmetry. And I think that looks pretty good. It has not changed the shape really all that much. And then we add on a turbo smooth. And what I would do, in fact, actually, I'm going to delete that turbo smooth first. I'm going to add on an edit poly before that symmetry. And I think the eyes are just a little bit cooler than this as well. So I'm going to hold down Alt X to make sure that I'm not selecting anything that I don't want to. I'm going to move that down a little bit. And I'm going to move that down a little bit. And I think really just to get some nice topology around here. So we could call this quits and go with this, but I think I'm going to show you how to do a nice loop going around as well. And I think that's going to pay us dividends when we apply that turbo smooth on here as well. So I'm actually going to think, rather than moving those up, what I actually want to do is elongate the middle as well. So you'll have to appreciate some of the trial and error that I'm doing here. So I've selected a box there, so I'm going to Alt X there. But for an organic design, something that isn't set in stone, I can't just give you exact measurements. There does have to be a little bit of by eye that goes on here. So we're going to go back into now our cut mode, and our cut tool is here, and let's just go and cut down there, around here. Okay, and then we're going to go to here. In fact, no, we're going to go to here and remove that. We're going to remove that. We're going to remove that. That one. That one. That one. That one. And this one. So now what we've created is a nice loop going around that eye. And this, when we put on the turbo smooth in the end, it's like a little mask you can see, and this topology is just going to help that final turbo smooth have far less pinching. Okay, so, and it's all still quads, especially once we put on the turbo smooth, but here as well. So also we can probably get away with getting rid of this, and this. Quad, 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 quad. We have perfect topology going all the way around, and that's nicely looped up as well. So, there we go. I'd say that's modelled. To be honest, we don't even need that. What we could do, I'm going to delete this. And I'll let you add on that extra turbo smooth if you want it. But I think that I could probably get away with just a chamfer here. Something like that. And then I'm going to double click that and I'm going to delete that. And I think that's probably going to look about what the GameCube one looks like. If you want it to look any nicer or smoother, just add on a turbo smooth here. Maybe that is about the topology actually that the GameCube one has. It look about right. I'm looking at the edges going around. The eyes are quite smooth. You see, 1, 2, 3. I'll get rid of this. 1, 2, 3. I think it is that much. I think it's just because it's zoomed out. Maybe there's an extra loop in here. Maybe the eyeball went a bit longer. I think potentially I could have done this topology going up and had the eyeball going up there and then got the loop. But I'm going to go with this for now. And I think it's going to be simpler to unwrap as well. So my one definitely seems a bit taller. So I'm just going to go into here, into these control points. I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to squish him down a little bit. I think shorter and fatter before we go into that. And I think that, there we go. I think the body was a bit too tall. I'm quite happy with that. I think his feet could be a little bit fatter as well. So I'm going to go onto here. I'm going to add on an edit poly before the symmetry. So let's disable that. And I'm just going to go into that soft selection. And I'm going to select this here. Actually just going to scale. Maybe not. Going to drop the fall off. There we go. And I'm going to make the bubble a bit rounder. And I'm going to just bring up the foot a bit. And I'm going to bring that bit back a little bit. I think that looks a bit softer, the foot does now. I think that looks better. Or at least I prefer it. So let's just re-enable our symmetry. Okay, so we've got that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy him off. We're happy with him. Okay, and now let's delete that symmetry and delete that symmetry. The reason is because we are going to unwrap half of our little guy. Okay. Oh, I haven't done the wings either, have I? The wings are nice and easy. Let's just chuck them in. I'm going to start with a box. We're going to add on an edit poly onto this box. Let's just make it a bit longer and thinner. Then I'm going to add on a symmetry and I'm going to rotate the mirror. Okay, I'm also going to push it back a little bit. Make sure the mirror is actually selected. So it's a little bit longer. If I rotate it, let's try it on a different axis. There we go. Yeah, something like that. And if I flip it, and let's move that. There we go. This is the sort of shape that I'm just trying to make with the symmetry anyway. Not a full right angle, something more a bit like that. And then So we've just got that sort of shape. Probably could have just done that with an extrude. And then I'm just going to add on Turbo Smooth onto this. And we can see straight away now we have a little wing shape. And what I'm going to do now is add on an Edit Poly onto that. And I'm going to take these. I'm going to move them up and scale them that way. And maybe even rotate it and move it just a bit more. Take this one and rotate it and just put it just, and take this one and move them out there. Okay, nice and easy. Flatten that off, and then we just position this. We can get that looking a little bit better. Just distributing our topology of the curvature where it needs to be. Gonna see it. And probably get away with doing something like that because it's going to be attached to the back there anyway. Okay, put that into position. Put it there, rotate it. I think that looks about right, and then when we're finished we will symmetry it and we will do it on the Y. We will flip, no, we won't flip it, we will just rotate that like that, and then we'll get the wings on the back like that. So we've done that. What I'm going to do now on half of the head is actually delete it. So I'm going to add on another half of this, Edit Poly. Because we're using symmetry on this, because it's not going to take in ambient occlusion and baked shadows, it's going to be dynamically lit. We can get away with symmetry on this model to increase the resolution of the texture. And we're going to do the same to the body, especially as it's such a simple gradient texture. We're not going to see a line of symmetry in him. And I can almost guarantee he's got that symmetry on him on the GameCube asset. So again, on this one, I'm going to add on an Edit Poly. And I'm going to delete half of him. Okay. And on this one, I can just disable the symmetry. Okay, so we have half of our model right now. And what we're going to do is select all of the pieces. And really, if I was going to be super efficient, I would delete these inward facing polygons here. I'm not for this one. I don't think we're going to need to do that. What I am going to do though is add an unwrap modifier to them. I'm not going to attach all of these together. Or maybe I am. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. So I'm going to take the body, and now I'm going to right click, convert this to an editable poly. I'm going to attach all of these objects like that. And we're going to add on an unwrap modifier. Okay, now what's great about using boxes and spheres is that they've actually been unwrapped for us. So if I open up the UV editor, and I'm going to snap this here and this here, And I'm just going to minimize the reference now. So we're going to use element mode here, and we're just going to move some parts off into different areas. So that's the body. This is the, and this is this. And finally, that should be the wings. Okay. Now, we could, they do have nice seams in here, you can see, but we can probably get away with stitching a lot of this together. And what we're going to do is just do a piece by piece. So I'm going to take the arm. No, I'll take the body first. And let's just see what happens if we flatten by smoothing group and if we relax a couple times. So if we flatten by smoothing group, we're going to get this. It is one island right now. And if I relax it a lot of times, eventually we're going to get this sort of shape. And actually, I think that's fine. If I turn on the texture checker, and we can see on there, we've got a little bit of distortion at the belly. And you know, to fix this, what I could actually do is probably break it here, or to fix some of this. I'm not going to go to there, but I am going to break it here. We're not going to see that seam, and I am going to break it here. So select those two, and I'm going to press break, and now we've got a line there. And if I keep using relax on that, it's going to help some of that distortion that's going on there, and you can see what I mean by that distortion. This isn't going to matter all that much because we're likely going to just use gradients to texture this. There's not going to be too much detail on this model. When we have a look at our pure ref, we can see it's just a gradient going from top to bottom, so that should be fine. But we could try and peel it. That hasn't really done anything different to just relaxing it. So I think I'm happy with going for just using this. Yeah. So I'm going to turn off peel, and I'm going to just scale that and put it somewhere just in this quarter of the island. Okay, so then we're going to take the feet, and for the feet we are going to, so this one isn't in half, it's a full cylinder, sphere even. So what instead I'm going to do is try to do a spherical map. I'm going to fit and center it, and you can see that a ball has went around the object. And what I'm going to try and do is get, I'm going to use my rotate, and I'm going to rotate it, and hopefully the seam I want it going around that bottom bit of the foot. There we go, and we can see that's mostly there. And it's not really doing exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted the seam to go all the way around. So I'm going to turn off this, and I'm just going to do a planar map. And a planar map's good because it just attaches everything. There's no seams now, and we can just break it up how we want to. Okay, and the reason is what I actually want to do is chop it in half from the bottom of the foot here. So I've double clicked that ring around here, and I'm going to break that. Okay, let's take this. Now the only thing that I'm seeing is this gradient along the foot here, and lining these up might actually be a bit of a hassle, the bottom or the back of the foot. So actually what I'm going to do is undo that, and I'm going to break it here where it's just going to be blue going into blue, and that's going to be much easier to line up or not notice a seam happening in there. So I'm going to break it here. Because that's broken here, now what we can do is select this, and I'll show you what peel does instead. So if I go on to peel, it is now just spread those out, both of them, and we can see that we've got, if I turn off peel mode and deselect, we've got these parts now spread out, and I'm going to just rotate these so they're up. I'm going to scale this down, just put it into here, and I'm scaling it to the point where this is similar to the size of the body as well. Okay, so if I go any smaller, the letters are going to be bigger, which means that it's a lower resolution. So I actually need to go just about here. It is the foot, so we're less concerned about that. And then I can go to here, and again I can scale this down, and this is when we're thinking about texel density when we're unwrapping. I'm going to make sure it's on a letter that I can see, and there is a bit of stretch in here, but we're not really going to notice it all that much with the gradient. Okay, we could definitely add in another break along here to try and fix that, but I don't think we're going to need it when we're just going from the blue to the blue. And I think that's okay. I might make that just a little bit bigger as well. Okay, right. Maybe let me just see what this does for me. Don't follow along with this. This is a quick experiment, and if it does go right, you can follow along with it, but I'm going to try to reduce some of that distortion along the bottom here. We're very rarely going to see, so I'm going to try adding a seam, and we're going to then select this island, and we're going to repeel, and I think there we go. Yeah, we can see that's way better. So do that, and we're going to turn off peel, and we're going to scale this down. You can see there's far less distortion now. It's going to be still very easy to get that gradient going across. Okay. Relax a couple times. I think I'm happy with that as well. Okay, so I can put that in here. All right, the next one is the, and again we've got a gradient going in, and maybe we can, so we know that a spherical map wasn't helping us, so we're just going to click on a planar map so it's got no seams on it, and we've got to think about where the seams will be good to go, and I think on the inside of the arm will be a good place. So we turn off element mode, double click along here, and we're going to turn on X-ray, and we're going to make it so none of the outside has a seam here. And I think if we have a seam there and we break it, and then we try and select all of these and just peel it like that, and let's see what that gives us. So let's go back out of X-ray mode. We've got nice density there going up to the arm, and I think again that should do us absolutely fine. You can see a little bit of distortion, but with just a sort of gradient there, we're probably going to be fine. Okay, we want to make sure that we're saving enough space for the eyes and these elements. So let's actually do the eye now. The eyes we're going to select, and we're going to just grow that selection by clicking this. There we go. And we're going to break them off. And we're going to put them for some reason it won't let me click and drag. There we go. And I'm going to relax it a couple of times. And we know the eye, fine. That's where it's going to go. And then we're going to plane our map back. And then we're going to peel it. In fact, do we want to do it that way? We probably want the full head attached, don't we? Let's select the whole head. And then deselect the eye. Pointing down Alt. Plane our map back. And then peel. And that gives us this. We can rotate it. It's the right way up. We can scale it. And it can't fit in, but we will do a pack in a little bit. Oops. And we will get some regularity in all of these. And we'll see if we can do anything else to improve this. And then these look like just a gradient going from back to front. So again, select this. And I think the best place to put this scene, if the gradients from back to front, is literally down off that, straight down the middle, and we will break. And then it would be nice if these were just laid over the top of each other, but I think, yeah, we'll just give them a peel. And they're fine. It would be really good to be able to maybe mirror. I don't think it's really. No, we'll leave it. But we might be able to do some better packing later. Okay, so let's go to Tools, Pack UVs. We don't want to rotate them, they're all the right way up. In fact, this one isn't. Get them rotated the way that we want them. Okay. And we're going to rescale clusters, click OK, and we've had a good go. I think that we can have a better unwrap than this, so now we're going to try and position some of these so that we can scale up all of the elements to get more out of our resolution. So let's see what we can do. And this is where maybe a different package other than 3ds Max, if you like Ryzen 3D or Ryzen UVs, would be good to use. But if I take all of these, challenge what I like to do is just scale them all up 10% and now see if I can fit it. And you can tell it was 10% by 110 being the scale down there. And then if I can maybe just having a look at that, making sure that it's not. I could probably get away with just going to put in a break here and here as well. And that's that one. What am I looking at here? On the arm, isn't it? Yeah. To be honest, it's not that bad. It just looks really awful here. Yeah, it's just at the top there, but we're not going to notice that. That's fine. Okay. So let's undo that break. There we go. So lots of people really dislike unwrapping. I kind of find it's just like doing a puzzle. It's definitely not something that is exciting, but I think if you do a really good job on it, you can tell in your final result, and it's worth taking the time to try and get a really good one. Now, where I'm placing some of these might not make sense, but it's allowing me to maximize the resolution. And I'm definitely going to have to scale these down just a little bit. But I think I've done a pretty good job in getting the most out of the space. Don't think I do have to scale these down. Let's move these down. Bear in. There we go. So I think that's pretty good. I would have liked the wings with each other, maybe going from top to bottom and all of those sorts of things. The only thing that I haven't done, I've just realised, is this little bit here. It's a completely solid colour though, which is nice because I can just add it on and just give it a really small amount of space. And it won't matter that it's got less UV space than anything else because there's no detail in that particular part. So let's just quickly add that on, and we can just do that. It is also very small, so it might not take up much space. Scale it up in here. Don't scale it up with this tool outside of the edit poly. You'll get X-form issues. And if you don't know what they are, it's very likely that when you put it into a game engine, it'll be the wrong size or distorted. Okay. Got all of that. And we can grab this, patch that, go to wrap, open, minimize our little guy, and let's try a sphere unwrap on it, I guess. Although I think it's got one, doesn't it? Try it, enter. Let's try and tape that here. Yeah, they never do a great job. I'm just going to do planar map, then unplanar map, and I'm just going to do double click along here. I will break that. We'll select both of these, fill, and we can scale them down. Just put them anywhere. One. Oh, something's happened here as well. I was sure this was fine earlier. Apparently not. There we go. I think that'll do. You can go into texture checker. That over that for a a second. It's not a million miles off actually in terms of the texel density. So I think I'm happy with that. Right, I'm going to go into Tools, Render UVW Template. 1024 is plenty for an asset like this. So we will render it. And we can see that there are no errors or overlapping bits. These are a little bit close to each other. I could move them over, but because again it's so simple colours, it'll probably be okay. There's enough padding there. They're a bit close to each other. I could come in, again, as it's a tutorial, I'll try and show you. And what you can find is just that things will bleed into each other potentially. Generally, like during LODs or when viewed from a distance, when it down reses for texture, you might see pixels bleed into each other. So giving it a little bit of padding, space between, can just mitigate some of those issues. There we go. So Tools, Render UVW Template, and that's fine. So I can save that, and I'm going to save it into Chao UVs. And we'll save it as a PNG. I like a PNG for UVs for taking into Photoshop for texturing. And that's done. And great. Okay, so that's all good. When we jump into Photoshop in the next part and apply the texture on, all we have to do is on these elements, not that one, just add on a symmetry on the correct axis in the correct location, 0, 0, not flip, and the texture will apply to both sides perfectly. Okay, but we have completely modelled. I just need to detach this part. There we go. There we go. So we completely modelled this little character, and we're ready. So with Photoshop open, we're going to add in our UVs and open up this file, and we'll be presented with a correctly sized 1024 texture, and we're going to add in a new file, a new layer on the bottom here. And we're just going to fill that in with black. Okay, so now we can see those UVs, and we can label those as UVs. That can be the background. And to be honest, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my PureRef, and I'm going to just snipping tool, if I can. I don't know whether a snipping tool can see that. Yes, it can. Lovely. All right. So I'm just going to put that there, just so I can sample for colours. And close that down. And that's colour sample. And I'm going to take I'm going to use I. I'm going to click the blue on the darkest part of him. I'm going to select my other colour, background one, and sorry, I'll swap it here even, and I'm going to pick the lightest part of him. And what I'm going to do is create some gradients, because the gradients seem to be per body part. So what I should be able to do is create, say, body, layer for that, leg, and I will name leg, arm, more wing, and eye. There we go. Alright, so let's go start with the body layer, which is this one here. And what we can do is drag a box over it. In fact, actually, can we use, let's see if we can go to the UVs and can I select, I'm just wondering if there's a way where I can select, if I baked out an ID map, that might actually be even easier. So I'm going to show you a really quick way so that we can colour in all of these elements actually really quickly. So I'm going to grab a material for him and just chuck it. In fact, I'm going to first change my render setup to be scanline. So I went into render setup to be scanline. Then I'm going to get one of these materials and I'm going to change it to be standard legacy. I'm just going to chuck that onto the object. I'm going to give it a color, that sort of blue, and then I'm going to press or 0 on the keyboard and click render to texture. Another way you can access that is go to rendering and you can go to render to texture, and we're going to click on the object we want to render. We're going to add on about 8 pixels of padding. We're going to use the existing channel. We're going to add a diffuse map and we're going to render that, and we get this, which is fine, apart from that it's got some shading in it and I'm not quite sure why. It shouldn't do because we used we also need to change the texture of this map. There we go. I've got him emissive, so let me try, instead of a diffuse map, I'm going to add on a complete map. Because he's got self-illumination colour on him, he should be detailless, this should be. But it does seem to have, but this will work anyway. This is fine. It's just so that I can lasso select these. So I'm just going to save these as ID. There we go. Just going to save us some time in selecting all of those things. So I'll save that out. And you can do different colours on different parts so that it's much easier to select. But because it's such a simple model, it will be fine to do it this way. I'm going to drag that in and I'm going to put that underneath my UVs. Now I can just select, let's go to my quick selection tool and I can just paint the selection in there, and now I can get my gradient tool. There we go, and drag that in. Make sure that it is set to be the gradient that I've selected. There we go. So that should do that. And that gradient, I should actually name that body. I should have done that inside the body layer, but it's fine. I'll just delete these other layers and we'll do it this way. At least you're learning extra ways to do things in Photoshop. Probably should have scripted this one a little bit better. I'm going to go back to my ID map and I'm going to do the what? I want to do the selection tool. How come you are not selecting things this time? Let's try quick selection tool instead. There we go. If you want to deselect, you can hold down Alt. And if you want to select more, you can just painting. There we go. So with this one now, I can again get the gradient, and this is the foot. Let's open up that pure ref. This one now, instead of that blue, we have this yellow. Take that. There we go. And we're gonna go. And if it does this, you just select that. There we go. And I'm gonna do something like that. I'm actually gonna make this one round. And move that in there. There we go. We've got a round gradient on the tip of the foot. And that will be fine for that. And that. Oot. Okay. The next bit of the UVs. I believe that's the back of the foot. Let's do the head. So we'll go eye, and we'll select our darkest bit of a gradient again. We're gonna go to selection and paint that selection over here. There we go. And what we're going to do with this now is do another gradient. Just update it to that one. And this one needs to be, oops, I've just realized I was doing that on the old gradient layer, so I just need to create a new layer. And now I can do this. And again, I think let's just have a look at how he looks. I think it's sort of the back of him. Try something more like that. That seems to be it. So it's darker all along here, and then on the front of his face it's quite light. And yeah, something like that. And then he does have yellow coming in from the top as well. So this one's a bit more of a complex gradient. There may be a way in which we can get colours to extra colours in our gradient. I'm not going to figure that out in the tutorial right now. What I'm going to do is just add in another layer, and I'm going to select this one, this gradient with nothing on the background, and I'm going to select that yellow again. Okay, and there we go. And we're going to just, with that selection again enabled, sorry, this is the one. Oh. Let's try that again. Let's try, go to ID map, just select. Just holding down shift and clicking around. Right, so now I can go back to a gradient, add a new one on, over that, and I'm going to do a line one from this and just do something like that. Okay, and that should be again fine. Whoops, not that one, but yeah, still showed me. There we go. Don't know why this isn't staying on top actually. Mode always on top. Yeah. Oh, just disabled always on top. Great. That'll do. Okay. While we're here, let's add on a new layer, and let's go into ID map and select this part. So let's go into quick selection. Can't do that, so I'm just going to manually paint these in. going to hold down space and click so I can come over here. And this new layer, I will paint in colour for that. It doesn't matter if you go outside the line. If anything, I would recommend going outside the line just a little bit. The padding, when I rendered out on 3ds Max the ID map, it should have went out a little bit. I did only 2 pixels of padding. I probably should have added in a little bit more. It's fine now, but I'll show you how we can fix that or reduce the issues from that. So let's select the wings. Okay, and create a new layer. And let's go for the white and pink, isn't it? Yeah, so let's try. Just go for white there. And I think I can just select pink here. There we go. Tense. And go to gradient. And if it doesn't update, there we go. Should be fine. And again, I'm going to do a circle one for that. Something like that. There we go. With that. This is the back of a foot, so that just needs to be selected. And then we just need to paint this that colour. And I should be able to do that in a new layer. Okay. And the arm. Oh yeah, I should have done the other wing as well when I did that gradient, but that's fine. So let's select the arm now. Okay, create a new layer. We will select the darker blue. Oh no, it's got yellow on it, hasn't it? It's yellow and blue. Then we go to gradient, select this, and we can get this gradient around. Fact, actually, that's the split, isn't it? So I want to do something more like this. And I want to invert that. There we go. Should be okay. I can see in the topology this is the front of the hand right here. That's why I'm doing it about there. Okay. So just being able to read your topology in your unwraps is quite useful for these sorts of things. We will take that wing layer. Let's just do another layer. Select for colours so I can click the ID map, sample this, and then create a new layer. I will press I on that bit, X, and then I on that bit. Press G to go to the gradient tool, and make sure we have our colour selected. Cool. Do that. There we go. Lastly, it is the eyeball. No, second to lastly, it is the eyeball. So this one we can, let's just have a look. quite big. So let's take that white, paint that in. Let's come down here. And is it a perfect circle? No. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer. D. I'm not going to do perfectly black. I'm going to do like a very dark grey. And I'm going to take this and then I'm going to press Control T. I'm just going to hold down Shift to stretch that, and that should be fine. And keep forgetting that I've actually got a little bit of reference here. That's all of the colours. It's just his mouth now, and I've got to have a guess at where his mouth is and the line. This might require a couple times in. It's like a very dark red. So I'm just going to take this, create a new layer, mouth, should be naming my layers, eye. I'm going to try, based off that topology, I want it one across, one down, coming up. So one across, one down, coming up. And I think it's actually going to be about here. I'm going to zoom in. So let's give this a go. I'm just going to go on the mouth layer. I'm going to click once here. I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to go up and just make sure that this is above. There we go. And that should mirror then on the other side and go up there. That might be in the right place. It may need tweaking, but because we've used layers, we can move this around wherever we want when we want to update the texture. And so let's do the last thing before we export this out. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to put it over that background, just over this, and I'm going to get that blue. And I'm going to press G, paint bucket tool, and just paint that there. And then I'm going to turn off my UVs so I don't export them out. And hopefully it should work. I'm going to turn off my ID map as well. Where is that? There we go. Then I don't get those outlines there. And that should soften things out a little bit. So if I do get any sort of blue bleeding in from here, I'll show you how I would fix that. And I'm also going to just find that layer with the little Chao on. Bin. Head, ball, not quite antenna, I guess, maybe. A sample. So file, export, quick export as PNG. I'm gonna just put it on to desktop and Chao texture. And I'm gonna skip the putting it into Unreal for this tutorial because you've seen that in another one, and we can now go to this, chuck that material on him, go to here, bitmap, just check it, desktop, and cast Chao texture. And beyond tweaking some of these gradients, so some of the gradients are a little bit small or a little bit larger. I think he was supposed to have one on his feet maybe as well. Yeah, but we can go into Photoshop now and tweak any of these based off how we think they should look. You've seen the process, but obviously you can design your own as well. And we do have a line here, so I will quickly just show you how I would fix that line if we were happy with this color scheme, and how we could also just firstly just take all of this on there, and I add on a turbo smooth. There we go. That's going to increase the sort of fidelity of it as well, and without making it too crazy. But to fix this, what I would do is, because we didn't do that padding, one of the ways would be to actually, in that 3ds Max, when I rendered the texture, is to actually just add some more padding to hit this, maybe 16 pixels, when we rendered out that ID map, and that will color outside of the lines. Or now we've got this, is what I'm going to do is we've got the chaos UVs here, and I'm going to take the chaos texture, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to just put it at the bottom above that layer underneath here. I'm going to go to image, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and do maybe about 5 pixels, and I'm going to do that 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and what that's going to do is just color outside of the lines just for all of these. And then I'm going to take another one, and I'm going to just do another larger Gaussian blur, maybe by about 16 or 10 pixels, and again just copy that a few times. Okay, and then we can take all of these, just merge layers. Okay, and now that should hopefully, if I quick export that out again, save that, place it, go back into 3ds Max. Doesn't seem to have fixed it, does it? So let's just see high quality, and let me just go and check if it's something to do with the resolution. Configure viewports. No, we're at 1024. Apply. So potentially then, if you are getting that issue, it's a padding issue in terms of the colors meeting each other along here. And yeah, I can see that blur probably not went out far enough. So it's a padding issue. I would probably just have to now potentially redo some of that when I go into render to texture and just add in a bit of padding. The other way that we could do it is, so if I try and just fix this, I'm quite surprised that didn't. So what I've done is control clicked this, and I'm going to now go into marquee, and I'm going to transform the selection. If I make this bigger, it should change the mask. Or let's press delete, or okay, let me try and paint into this mask. So if that's where I want to paint, and it's not letting me. Oh, it does say that I am painting into that mask, doesn't it? Yes, I am. There we go. Try and paint into that mask there, and just see if that now it export, it's just about colouring out the outside the lines just a little bit, so that when they join up, there shouldn't be as big of a difference. So if I export out, go into the texture, come in, there we go. You can see it's massively reduced now. It may be tweaking that gradient so it's less round at that bit, because I think it's getting brighter there, but the actual sharp line like there, and I would just have to do that on each bit. We could also come into viewport canvas and actually try and paint some of these things on here as well. So if I go into here, we can paint directly onto this. So if we wanted to, say, add a new layer and take the yellow, I just want to change the colour. Here we go. Can I pick that? Okay. And let's make this a little bit bigger, smaller. Again, it might be better to paint. There we go. Doing something like that might be another way of manually painting on the gradients as well. So you could actually paint in here before we take it into Substance, or you could, yeah, as an alternative to taking it into something like Substance Painter. I think if you are going to do it like this, probably just taking it into Substance to manually paint it as well would be a good way to go about it, because viewport canvas does have a few limitations, such as you cannot just click. I would probably want to paint on it with the symmetry turned off as well, because if I just click, it doesn't do it. It must be a drag on the mouse, and I think that, yeah, if we drop the spacing to 0, yeah, even that doesn't really allow us. But we can also paint directly on the texture here. We can try and do something like that, but again, you can't just click, which I find really limiting in terms of what you can actually do. Putting in all the masks in is a little bit difficult as well. I mean, I wouldn't be 100% sure how to do all of those. I think at this point, though, you've seen enough and done enough of the other Sonic asset tutorials and texturing to play around with this and refine it so that it is good for you. You can see some of the blue has come into the eye there, but this is enough for you to see of the process to just finish your own now, and then we could potentially look at rigging this with voxel rigging for animation, or posing it so that it goes into your scene. But hopefully you've enjoyed it and have got your own little character. You can modify this to be maybe one of the other designs. It shouldn't be too much of a stretch to make one of these based off this tutorial. Again, just apply the same processes. It should all be good. And good luck.